Greetings and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Play Metroid Prime. I'm Paradigm Gamer, and in this next part, we're going to be continuing to explore the Chozo Ruins. Alright, getting back to why I thought the War Wasps were so annoying. It's not because they're hard to kill, or that they're even really, that annoying in what they do. It's just that so many of them just spawn. And these little hive things in the wall, you can blow them up with missiles, but every time you leave the room and it reloads, the hives come back. So it's just like, okay, they're just going to keep coming after you, and until you blow up their hives, they're not going to stop coming. I don't know, I just find those enemies to be a little irritating. Not like the worst thing ever, but, they're still a little, they do kind of slow down the pace a little. Over here, I want to quickly scan this fountain in the center. One of the rare occasions where I'm going to be scanning the environment. Fountain choked by overgrowth. Toxin levels are high. Interesting. Up here, there's more lore. Surges of negative energy brought by the meteor far exceed our expectation. We Chozo have yet to find a way to rid ourselves of the great poison. What we can do now is seal it away and wait for the day when a power to purify the poison appears. However, it is already impossible to collect all the pieces of the great poison, as it has already spread, seeping into the planet and hardening. Interesting. I mean, the order that these lore segments appear are kind of out of order. Another new enemy, hope I can scan them before they die. This is a very familiar 2D enemy, the Shriekbat, or Scree, territorial ceiling dweller. Body temperature peaks at 121 degrees centigrade. Shriekbats have high internal temperature, making them easy to spot with thermal imaging. They roost on cave ceilings while hunting for small prey. Fiercely territorial, they dive bomb anything that wanders near. So the easiest way to take these guys out is you can usually see them on the ceiling before they come on you, so you just want to shoot a missile or something at them so that they all blow up at once. Yet another new enemy. And again, I'm sorry that there's so many of them in the first part of the game, but as we move on, that's going to become less of a thing. This is the Reaper Vine, powerful rock-dwelling tentacle. A single eye upon the Reaper Vine keeps a constant vigil, but its vision is limited to 10 meters. A scythe-like appendage on the tip is honed to lethal sharpness. The Reaper Vine will swing this blade wildly at anything that wanders near its own perception. So what's weird is that they actually do have an eye. If you look really closely, they do indeed have one. I never noticed that before I started practicing up for this LP, but I'm not going to be doing that yet. Jump back up here. So what you want to do for those guys is just, shoot the eye from distance. And it's pretty easy because of the lock-on feature. One thing to keep in mind if you're playing the Wii version is that there's an option for you to be... I always like the steam effect here. Like the steam from the pipes fogs up your vision. What am I stuck on? Move. Alright. Like there's an option for lock-on free aim. And you don't want to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because lock-on free aim, what it does is basically... There's a missile expansion in this wall. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The reason you don't want to do that is because, the whole point of locking onto something is to make them easier to shoot. And lock-on free aim just makes it so that, okay, you're locked on, but you can still aim wherever you want. Which I guess, if you're really, really good with the control scheme, is nice, but you still have to, manually aim at everything, which kind of defeats the purpose of locking onto things. So, I don't care for it, and I never use it. Honestly, even when I'm playing Prime 3. Alright, so this room has 4 of these symbols hidden around. What you need to do is whenever you see one, scan it and it activates. And in order to proceed, we need to scan them all. And some of them can be pretty tough to remember where they are. There's one back here. I always miss that one, I swear. So, it might have seemed obvious to some of you, but, you really need to keep your eye out for these things. They're not the easiest things in the world to keep track of. Over here in this wall is the last one. And then that little hammer thing shows up for some reason. Turn it over and scan it. And it comes down. And over here we have a couple of new things. First of all, we have the charge beam. And above it, some lore. We're going to read that first. Chozo script translated, disaster struck suddenly. We had a vague dark foreboding and it became truth. A meteor appeared from nowhere, casting a dark shadow of debris over the land with the violence of its impact. Its destructive force spent, the fallen star burned itself out rapidly, and the incident should have faded into memory. But the meteor brought with it corruption. A great poison burst forth into the land, a strange energy that clawed at natural life with a ferocity. This strange negative energy emitted from the meteor expanded to encompass Talon 4 in a night as the spider weaves a web. Now that's actually very important to the story, which is why I wanted to read the lore. Because, you can ignore it all if you want, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but, to get the full story of the game, to really get a feel of what's going on, I highly recommend reading the lore for yourself. So now that we have the charge beam, we can actually kill these things. And this right here, that does lead somewhere, but we don't have the way to open it yet, and there's a special power-up we need to get everything in it. So I'm going to be holding off on that for quite a while. But don't worry, I do know where everything is. And as I've said before, this is going to be a 100% run. And I should probably briefly explain what the charge beam does. It allows you to charge up your shots, and they do more damage. I don't know if it's more powerful or less powerful than a missile. I think it really depends on the enemy, honestly. But it's pretty useful. And later on, we're going to be getting a special new ability that allow us to do some interesting things with it. So that's not going to be for a while, but it's a pretty nice power up. As for what was I talking about before that? Shit. But again, like shooting at the shriek bats from a distance is the easiest way to take them out. But oh yes, 100%ing the game. Some of the I know where everything is. I've 100%ed the game and a decent number of times, but no matter how many times I play a Metroid game, no matter how much I like it or how much I dislike it, there will always be one power-up that I somehow forget about. Just somehow. It's not that I don't know where it is, it's just that I don't think to look for it at a specific time, and I just miss it. And no matter what, this playthrough is ending with a 100% collection rate, but hopefully, I've practiced this game up enough, so hopefully that won't be a problem, but, it can be pretty challenging because there's really no in-game way to keep track of things. It's not like Metroid Zero Mission, where, like, after you beat the game, it shows you where everything is, so you can go grab it. No. You have to find everything for yourself, and that can be a little cumbersome. No, they fix it in Prime 3 by letting you scan some stuff that tells you where everything is, but no, that's not in this game, and it's not in the second one either. Here is our next mini-boss. This is the Incinerator Drone, programmed for high-temperature waste disposal. Device schematics indicate a high risk of malfunction when internal power core is damaged. Unit has minimal combat training, but can defend itself if necessary. This drone's intense heat blasts compensate for its lack of battle prowess. So, lock onto it. Again, use your strafe because it's very useful in this sort of situation. On occasion, this thing on the top will open, which will cause it to shoot at that hive up there. And coming out is another type of war wasp. This is the barbed war wasp. Airborne insect with the ability to launch its stinger at prey. A highly aggressive member of the war wasp family, this insect can propel the tip of its stinger up to 20 meters. The stinger tips regrow seconds after launch and can contain an acidic compound designed to pre-digest prey. Yeah, the war wasps aren't really all that interesting. Like, only the regular type really annoys me that much. And it's going to be a while before we see, like, an enemy type that I find, like, legitimately the most annoying enemy in the game. And when we see them, boy, am I going to explain why. And it's not just me, everybody hates that particular type of enemy. So, for the most part, this fight is going to just be dodge the fire, shoot at the war wasps. And whenever the thing at the top comes out, you shoot it, and then eventually something's going to happen with that hive. I'm not going to reveal it. Another fun thing about the charge beam is that if there are little power-ups floating around the air, like energy or missiles, you can use your tractor beam or the charge beam to pull them into you. And I recommend doing that because it's easier to charge beam them to you than to actually like jump up into them. And it's also more annoying to have to do that other option. So, it's a very nice feature, and it's something I'm glad that they had the foresight to include. Okay, come on. Yeah. So can you see what I mean by the bosses being a little tedious? I mean, this is all we're doing. Dodging the shit, shooting the war wasps over and over again. Like if it happened maybe like 2 or 3... like if it didn't take so long, I would not mind at all. It's not even that bad. It's more like when I have to compare these 3 installments together, like back to back, the bosses in this game feel a little meh. and we're only, like, on the mini-bosses, so, like, when we get to, like, the actual bigger bosses, I'll be sure to explain, what my issues I have with those. Like, nothing in this, none of the bosses are bad, like, at all. They at least have, like, interesting designs, and they at least, like, require you to think of new ways to use your equipment and stuff. So we have the Morph Ball Bomb. This has a couple of functions. First of all, it allows you to blow up in things with them. That's the obvious use. You can also use it to bounce into the air. And if you're playing the Wii version like me, you also unlock the Jump Ball, which allows you to just flick the Wii remote up like this, and you will bounce in the air. It was not in the original game, and it was only added in Prime 3, so when they came out with the trilogy version, I guess they decided, to include that as well. I don't know why I'm just unfurled there, but we want to... So it makes things a lot... There are a couple of items in the game that are really annoying to get if you don't have the jump ball, which is another reason why I prefer the trilogy version, and I'll be sure to point those out when we get to them. Here's another new enemy. This is the Stone Toad. Preys on creatures smaller than itself. No shit. Vulnerable only from within. The Stone Toad is able to remain still for days. It preys upon creatures smaller than itself, inhaling them whole. Anything it finds undigestible, it regurgitates. Stone Toads use their tusks as a last resort in combat. Roll into them as the Morph Ball, drop a bomb, and they blow up. In an extremely gory fashion, no less. Now, this right here, one of the big differences between the Prime sub-series and the 2D titles is that there are a lot more puzzles. I can't really recall an instance in the 2D games where you have to, like, solve puzzles, so it's very unique to, the Metroid Prime trilogy, specifically. But for this puzzle, it's pretty simple. You just drop bombs in the holes, then the bomb slots in the wall. That's kind of another interesting thing about the Prime series, is that the bombs, they're not like physical bombs like they are in the 2D games or even Other M. They're like little electric bursts, which I always thought was weird. And you can use those little bursts to power the walls. I'm not sure who installed... one thing I've always wondered is, who built the Hive Mecha? Where did it come from? Did the Chozo make it? Did the Pirates make it? Like, why would that exist? Why would someone make a mechanical thing designed to house small insects and use them as a weapon? It's kind of weird, isn't it? Up here, there's the last one. My biggest tip for... You shouldn't have any trouble solving this puzzle, but, if you do, then my biggest recommendation is, instead of walking around through the hallways to get that second one at the bottom floor, just jump through the window like I did, because there's nothing stopping you from doing so when it's faster, so, whatever. Pretty simple puzzle. Can't say too much about it. Up here, the door would open. Oh, another thing to mention about Metroid Prime is, you see this room right here? How it's like this S shape? These are used to disguise loading. See how we have like this other big room behind us? And there's another big room coming up? Metroid Prime uses those teeny tiny rooms as to help give the game more time to load, which is why they're S-shaped, so you can't just walk through them. It's... If there's like a point... Here's an energy tank, by the way. If there's a point where like you come up to a door and it's taking forever to open, that's because the room behind it hasn't loaded yet. So you want to be, fairly careful about that. Or, I think it's very nice that they tried to keep it from being like... it's not like Symphony of the Night or anything where like a loading screen comes up and it's just like, okay, I've got to wait for the game to load. Or as bad as like Sonic 06 where it's just like a loading screen every 2 seconds. Very sophisticated way to disguise the loading. But at the same time, that S-shaped room we were just in, get used to it, because there are tons of them in this game. By the way, there's a shortcut down here. Once you get the Morph Ball Bomb, you can just blast through it. I mean, it's just, there's so many of them in this game, and honestly, it's another one of the reasons why this is not my favorite, because a lot of the rooms just kind of look the same. It's not as bad as, say, like Metroid 1, where everything, and I do mean everything, looks the freaking same, but, it gets a little tedious, when you have to... this game has another big problem, and I'll probably be getting into that in the next part, since we're so, like, close to being, since we've made so much progress. Like, we've got the charge beam, we've got the Morph Ball Bomb, we've got the jump ball. We've made a lot of progress in this part, so I think this is probably a good spot to end for now. But, you know, I'll leave that line of criticism dangling maybe for the next part. I'll be getting to it eventually, so don't worry about that. And in the next part, we're going to be continuing to explore the Chozo Ruins. I think now we're going to start doing some cleanup to grab some power-ups that we can get now, finishing exploring the place before perhaps moving on to the boss. So, until next time, I'm Paradigm Gamer, and I'll see you guys later.